This is the first in a series of 5 town hall meetings that we have put together. Our new, I won't say new anymore, our chief executive officer has been very intentional about getting out in the community to make sure that the community knows that she is present and accounted for. And we have done community roundtables across the district. This is the first series that we're doing community town halls across the district, because if we don't have our communities and our children and our families, we don't have jobs, right? And so it really takes a village to raise our children. And I think that our teachers, I don't know if we have teachers in the room, but our staff members at our schools, I know we have a lot of principals here in Network 6 and assistant principals, teachers. Thank you for your service, for what you provide to Chicago Public Schools every day. But I do want to bring our host principal up, who has been my sweetheart for many years, since I was a teacher in a classroom, I'm telling you. And I never thought that I would ever be her boss, but I was when I was a network chief, and before she went ISP, independent. She was just a wonderful joy to work with and to even look at every day. She's just a beautiful woman. And I joke with her about this all the time. But who doesn't know Dr. JOYCE Kenner of Whitney Young? 23 years in the role and doing great work over here on the near west side. Dr. Kenner, let's give it up, you all.
I'm going to tell my husband. Good evening to everyone. Again, I'm Dr. JOYCE Kenner of this wonderful institution, and I continue to love the work that I'm doing. I'm absolutely thrilled that we are hosting and welcoming all of you to this Chicago Public Schools Forum for our citizens of Chicago. As the longest serving high school principal in the district, I have had 8, thank you. I have had 8 CEOs during my tenure. And honestly, I can say Dr. Jackson, in her short time as our CEO, has gained the respect of principals like me, and I can be very difficult. And I have spoken to several aldermen who have praised her work. She and I sat on the CPS Principals Athletic Board together, and I'm a quiet observer. I watch people, and I watched her as a methodical thinker, a collaborator. She's fair-minded, articulate, focused, and a respected leader. Over these past several months, I've observed her open leadership style, her selection of extremely talented and knowledgeable staff, and I have witnessed firsthand changes that needed to be made to move our district in a positive direction. The budget came out so early, we as principals weren't ready. And it's like, oh my God, we haven't even programmed our kids yet. We got the budget already? That's a big deal to principals. We had an active shooter drill here in which she supported, along with Jadine Child, to help identify strategies with other Chicago agencies to keep our children safe. On the radio this morning, they talked about the new state-of-the-art science labs under Dr. Jackson's tutelage to meet the new high school requirements. And then we got a letter yesterday from her talking about funding equity across all schools and not just selective enrollment schools. I believe she's committed to quality educational experiences for all of our children. She has reshaped the mindset of central office and network personnel. And this is important to us at the lower level. She's identified an outstanding general counsel who deserved the appointment and will be fair and has been fair to everybody. I know we have a student who will introduce Dr. Jackson. However, I needed to say to all of you, we at the school level are ecstatic with our new CEO, who has walked in my shoes as a principal, has walked in the shoes of a teacher, and understands the nuances that go along with Chicago Public Schools. So again, it's my honor to host and welcome all of you this evening.
I'd like to also bring our interim network chief to the stage. Dr. Richard Smith is no stranger to Chicago Public Schools. He has been over specialized services at that time. We have since changed it to ODLSS. He's also been a principal. He's now working as the interim chief for Network 6. I'd like to introduce Dr. Richard Smith.
Good evening, everyone. I've been asked to talk about a few highlights of the network. I've been in the network for about a month. And coming back after a few years of being a network chief before and then coming back now, I cannot believe some of the things that I'm seeing. And it's such a pleasure to go in some of these schools. Just let's talk about STEM for a minute. I got to watch the mayor from afar at Crane High School today, where they're going to take that medical school and bring it into an early college STEM program right at Crane. It really looks great. And Principal Shabazz is here somewhere. Principal Shabazz? I want to talk about Brown Elementary School. I had an office in Brown about 8 years ago. And I went in Brown about 2 weeks ago. The principal's LaToya Lyons. I don't know if you're here, LaToya. I can't believe how Brown has changed. It's going to be a STEM school also. When I look at those classrooms, and I'm so glad they took my office and turned it into a science lab, it really is so much better. I went to this STEM elementary school and couldn't believe what I saw. Galileo now has 2 science labs, and this just is in Network 6. And I want to talk about special education because that was what I did for so long. Right now, there's a Graham High School, a school for students, older students, that have developmental delays. The difference in Graham High School, and I know Rebecca Parker, if you're here today, Rebecca's the principal, she has done an incredible job. Those students now are getting internships all over the city, and they're going to get jobs when they leave CPS. They're at Starbucks. They're everywhere. So I want to do a shout out to them. I also want to do a shout out to the people from the central office who helped make Rudolph the school with young kids who are severely disabled, who have been in an inadequate facility for decades, are finally, with the leadership of Holly Dakers, who's the principal, and the people, the help from the central office, they're going to move across the street beginning next year to the Hope Learning Institute. They're going to be in a beautiful facility that has enough room for them. And first and foremost, for years now, they will no longer be segregated just because they have a disability. If any of you have seen the news, Network 6 has some military high schools. We have Carver Military and Chicago Military that, according to the U.S. News and World Report, are among the 100 best high schools in the state of Illinois. And by the way, there are about 1,500 high schools in Illinois. I looked that up. And of course, this night can't go without recognizing Phoenix Military Academy. Phoenix Military Academy, which is right over by Western and Jackson, 96% minority, 96% free and reduced lunch, and according to U.S. News and World Report, when you look at the AP involvement, they are the 4th best high school in the state of Illinois. Principal Whip, are you here? You and your staff are here. I don't know where I can see you, but congratulations to the Principal Whip. There's so many great schools in Network 6, and it's been a pleasure to see all of them. Holden and Burr and Haynes and Sheridan and Pritzker and Ogden, all these schools are doing such great work. It's been such an honor to watch them in action. I want to say one final thing. I started working in CPS in 1979. It's a long time. There hasn't been in all that time one chief executive officer or superintendent who's taken it upon him or herself to come and do these town halls throughout the city. So I give you a lot of credit for that. You really deserve a lot of credit. So it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
I think God heard me because I said it really is dark in here. They will have a performance where the lights will be dim because they're getting ready to move into their fine arts performances. The choir is coming this week and some others. But tonight, we're going to hear some selections from this phenomenal organization, a music organization, the Whitney Young Jazz Ensemble. And I think they're behind stage. Students, are you all here? Here they are. These are some phenomenal students. They are actually preparing for their concert, and this just isn't a beginning ensemble. They can play. Won't you put your hands together for this ensemble? Whitney Young. Let's give it up for our students. Let me see. Raise your hand when I call your name. Jack Fahey. Where's Jack Fahey? Jack on lead guitar. Sophia Rabiella on the upright bass. Charlie O'Neill, that's on drums. And Miles Hardiman on trumpet. And Dr. Kenner just told me that he is the top horn player in the state. We have many of our high schools that are like this, well-rounded, not only in academics, but in sports, in fine arts, and all of the things that really bring together the holistic child. So we're doing great work. Thank you, Dr. Kenner, for that. I'd like to introduce our student who's going to introduce our Chief Executive Officer. But before we get into that, I'd like to just let you know that these town halls are informative sessions here. And we are here to hear the voices of the community that have come with specific concerns around school issues. And we've opened it up, but it is not like our community meeting setting. This is really a setting where we're really listening from the CEO and then listening to you all, and you signed up behind this auditorium. You will see behind me some of the accomplishments that Chicago Public Schools has been noted for. You will see our graduation rate, attendance rate, and some of the other highlights that we have done throughout the years. And this has been because of you all, our educators, our principals, our teachers. So Network 6, give me a hand. Let me see, where are you, our Network 6 administrators? Let's give them a hand. Thank you for what you all do. TOVA KAPLAN is a Whitney Young Academic Center, 8th grade. Come on up, TOVA, just the cutest little thing. But she is getting ready to graduate, and she is going into high school, but she is here to put together her own words in introducing our Chief Executive Officer. It's yours.
I'm going to lower this a bit. Hello, everyone. My name is TOVA KAPLAN, and I'm an 8th grade student here at Whitney Young's Academic Center. I knew after my first visit to Whitney Young that this was the place for me. That was in elementary school. And during my time here so far, I've been a class officer, been a part of Jewish Club, had the role of Iris in the drama program Spring Show, The Still Life with Iris. In addition, one thing I'm proud of is that I'm a peer mentor with Best Buddies, which is a high school organization. It's a friendship group that pairs up high school students with developmentally disabled students. It's really an amazing program. It fosters care and understanding among all people. And really, I believe in giving back to the community we're in. I've completed over 450 service hours during my time here. Thank you. And in line with giving back to the community, during my time here, I've really found my place as, an activist. I was one of the student organizers of the March for Our Lives walkout here at our school. At our school alone, over 2,000 students walked out on March 14th. And in addition, I participate with Bake Sale for Justice, a monthly fundraiser for progressive causes. And in the past year since we started it, we've raised over $13,000. And it's run almost exclusively by CPS students, so yeah. Also, on a side note, thanks to CPS's understanding and flexibility, I've been able to pursue a career as an actress, and I've had roles at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, the Paramount Theater, and the Mercury Theater of Chicago, and none of that would have been possible without the support of this school and CPS in general, so I'm very thankful. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Janice K. Jackson. Before she was the CEO of Chicago Public Schools, Dr. Jackson was a CPS student, teacher, principal, network chief, and chief education officer. Dr. Jackson is also a CPS parent, so she knows our district inside and out, and is just truly invested in the success of students like me. So please help me welcome Dr. Dr. Janice K. Jackson to the stage. Thank you.
Oh my God. Tova, thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's hard, it's definitely a hard act to follow. As I was sitting here, in addition to thinking about the fact that I have to follow you, I was thinking I'm going to have to go home and tell my kids to get it together because you listed off a bunch of things. I don't think I had all of that on my college application, so we have a lot of work to do in my house. But no, seriously, thank you, and thank you, Dr. Kenner, for being a gracious host, and I would like to thank everyone who took time out of their busy schedule to come here today. I would also like to acknowledge the CPS staff that is here, and you will have an opportunity to meet with them throughout this evening. Some of you may have noticed the tables as you came in. Also in the front rows, we have our senior leadership team, so all of the chief officers who run every single department in our district, they are represented here today, and that was extremely important to me because, as Dr. Smith noted at the top of this is something that has not been done with consistency by any CEO in my memory, and obviously his goes back a little bit longer than mine, and has noted the same. And there are a lot of reasons why that hasn't happened, but none of those reasons, in my opinion, make sense, because at the end of the day, we are here to serve you, and even if that means a series of uncomfortable conversations, contention, hopefully compliments, because there's so much to celebrate here in this district, to me it's all worth it, because Chicago Public Schools is a school system, which means all of us have a stake in the school system being successful. And as the leader of this district, I understand clearly that my role is to make sure that we bring this district together and sort through all of the complexities that make it one of the best school systems in the country, but also at times a difficult place to be and work as we work through some of those challenges. Before I go into my prepared remarks, I do want to acknowledge Alderman Burnett, who is here today. He's also sitting here in the front, who we should give a big round of applause to. As I was listening to Dr. Smith, celebrate the amazing accomplishments of the schools here in Network 6, I had to note that Alderman Burnett has been a leader and a partner in all of that. And when I say partner, I mean he just tells us what needs to happen, and then we end up going back to do it, which is easy to do when you are always talking about what's in the best interest for children. So I appreciate your support. I want to jump in today. I know that I see some familiar faces here, but also happy to see a lot of new faces. And so I want to share some remarks that I've been sharing throughout the district that I think are critically important. So some of you may have heard some of these points before. Others of you, this may be your first time having an opportunity to hear me deliver formal remarks. So I wanted to make that known up front. But even if you've heard me speak before, I think it's important to note that this message has to continue to be spread throughout this system and throughout this country. You see, I find myself every single day talking about the progress of Chicago Public Schools, and every single day I find myself being met with that confused look on the faces of different people who either refuse to believe that we are a district on the rise or just simply don't believe it. And I ask myself over and over again why that is, and there are a lot of different reasons that I can come up with. But I think at the end of the day, it's really important just to be really disciplined around that message, and also to continue to have collaborative opportunities like the one we have here today. Because if we don't work collaboratively, this district is not going to move in the direction that we want it to move in. All the things that we're worried about, that we want to see improved in this district, cannot be fixed if we are constantly at odds with one another. So it's really important that it's clear from the top what the vision is, and I want to state that publicly and allow you to hold me accountable to that. So real quick, it's important to note the time and place that we're in. CPS is a district on the rise, but it hasn't always been that way. I remember being in 5th grade, and then Secretary of Education Bill Bennett noted that Chicago Public Schools was one of the worst in the district. And we talk about that a lot here in Chicago. And people ask me all the time, do you actually remember that in 5th grade? And I tell them I do. I remember it because, one, I came from a family where we talked about politics, for better or worse, every single day at the dinner table. And also I remember all of the reforms that were set in place as a result of it. And I think that that's important to know because it's been almost 30 years to the day, and our school system is in a much, much stronger place because of men and women. Many of them are represented here in this room. And another thing that's left out of that quote that I think is extremely important and connected with the folks that are here in this room today is that Secretary Bennett said it would take a man or a woman of steel to turn the school system around. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can look around and look at the principals in this room, the teachers in this room, and the rest of them across this district, and you are looking at people of steel that have really led a transformational story unlike anything we've seen in this country, and they deserve a big round of applause. We've been getting national recognition. You see it posted here from Professor Reardon from Stanford, who talked about the amazing growth at the elementary school level. Karen Chenoweth, who is a fellow at the Ed Trust, who has written about districts that have beaten the odds for decades. And she says if we are serious as a nation about improving public schools, we should be studying what's happening in Chicago public schools. And I think there's no better vote of confidence for the work that we're doing. CPS students are outperforming their peers across the nation on absolute performance on standardized tests like the ACT and NWEA, and we are driving the improvements at the state level for our school system. Since 2002, the nation's graduation rate has risen 10 points, while in CPS it's gone up 25 points, which is something remarkable. But what's more remarkable is that graduation rate has risen because our neighborhood schools have improved. Our selective enrollment schools have always had extremely high college enrollment rates and graduation rates, but because our neighborhood schools have been improved due to investments that I'll speak about later, we're seeing more and more students successfully complete high school. The other thing that makes me proud about our graduation rate is that last year, when we met 77.5%, it was literally because African American males led the way, going up 5 percentage points in one single year. Yeah, you should clap for it. The College Board recently named CPS as Advanced Placement District of the Year. This was the second time in 12 years since that award has been given out by the College Board. And they did this because CPS is a statistical outlier because we have both increased access to AP classes. So gone are the days like when I was in high school, we didn't know how we got picked for AP, but some counselor somewhere saw a test score and decided we were worthy of an AP course. Now we're opening that up to students across ability levels, across races, across socioeconomic backgrounds, and not only are we opening up access, we're also seeing academic improvement, which again is one of the reasons why we were named AP District of the Year. It's not just about test scores either. If you look, and we still have a way to go, our discipline policy and our focus on social-emotional learning is like none other in the nation. In fact, last week we just hosted a consortium of school districts who are working to improve social-emotional learning throughout the country because they wanted to know what Chicago Public Schools is doing to have a reduction in suspensions by 67%, what we're doing to have attendance rates continue to improve, and what we're doing to see more and more kids walk across the stage and be successful. We know that there is a lot of positive things happening in and outside of our classrooms every single day, but we also know that there's still work ahead. So while I'll take every opportunity to talk about the progress that our district is making and speak to anybody who's willing to truly talk about what it's going to take for CPS to be the best school system in the country, I know that there's still a lot of work ahead of us. And I know that some of you are maybe skeptical about where we are and how far away we have to go, but I want you to know that I think we have the right pieces in place in order to get there. I think it starts with expanding school choice and high-quality options for students in the district. Now, I know this is something that everybody wants, and everybody wants right now, but people have to understand that it is a process to get there. So what is it that we're doing in order to address this? First, we have to deal with the issue of enrollment in our district. It's no secret that we've lost the student population since the start of the century. Again, going back to my time at CPS when I first started, we had around 430,000 students. Now we're down to 371,000 students. There are fewer students being born. Immigration has slowed to this country, and families aren't just leaving the district, they're leaving the state for various reasons. We must continue to make families attractive. We must continue to make our schools attractive to the families here, and we have to continue to make sure people know that there's a place for them in every school. That's why this year we announced that we are investing in neighborhood schools and putting in the type of programs that we know have been effective in schools throughout the city. Programs such as International Baccalaureate or IB, STEM, magnet, and classical schools, where more than 5,000 students will be able to benefit. I want to talk about this for a second because when I came in as the Chief Education Officer, one of the first tasks that I did is created a map to show where programs were throughout the city. And like many of you may imagine, there were communities where if you walk out of your door and look in any direction, there was a high-quality option there and a variety of programs to choose from. And you might also know that there are other parts of the city where when you walk out of the door, there were fewer options. Again, this is not something that can be fixed overnight, but I'm happy to say that this school year, over 1,800 students will have access to proven IB programs, and we started those programs on the south and west side of Chicago, as well as in some of our areas of need up north. Nearly 2,100 additional students will be participating in advanced coursework through the early college STEM program, again, raising that number to over 3,000 for students in the country, in the district. I had the privilege of visiting one of those schools today, Crane Medical Prep. I think I saw Dr. Shabazz in here one day, who, again, is a perfect example of what happens when we make the right decisions as a district. Crane was a school set to close years ago, and through advocacy from the aldermen and community members, the school remained open, and now it's one of the top neighborhood schools in the city. We've also added additional seats to STEM programs throughout the city, such as what's going on at Brown Elementary in this region. And to meet the demand for rigorous classical education programs, we opened 2 new schools in underrepresented neighborhoods, one in Bronzeville and one on the southwest side of Chicago, where now more than 2,600 students will have access to those programs in 2018. I believe that these type of investments are just the start, and it's what is needed in order to take Chicago Public Schools to the next level. We also know that we need access to high-quality teaching, which is another issue of equity. There are some schools where you go in, there's a high-quality teacher in front of every single student, and unfortunately, there are schools still in our district that start school on the first day with vacancies in the classroom. This is why one of the initiatives coming out of CPS's talent office is this program called the Opportunity Schools, where we've taken 50 schools in underserved communities, predominantly on the south and west side, to help them attract and retain great teachers. Essentially, what we've done is started to offer new teachers coming fresh out of teacher prep programs, jobs in CPS. These folks are committed to the district, and we're deploying them to some of our toughest schools. To date, we've hired 300 teachers in this program, and because of this program, we have fewer and fewer schools where students don't have a certified teacher in front of them on the first day. Finally, around access to quality teaching, we're working to make sure that teachers, we have enough qualified teachers for some of our high needs areas such as ELL and special ed. Through a partnership with National Lewis, we are working on a teacher residency program so that we can produce up to 50 ELL teachers a year to serve in some of our high needs areas, and we are also working on a program for special education. There's a tendency in meetings like this for CEOs to stand up and make a big speech or a big announcement about how they're going to do one thing that's going to improve the district, and that's not what you're going to get from me. My leadership is clear, is focused, and is steady, and I think that with continued investments like this, using equity as our lens, we will put CPS on the path that's going to make us successful today and beyond. I also know that there's a lot of work that we have to do at the central office level. One of my first moves when I became CEO was to invite everyone in central office to a town hall meeting to discuss how we can better serve the families in our district as a school system. I thought maybe a lot of people probably thought that improving customer service was an odd thing for a school leader to prioritize on the first couple of days. But for me, it's critically important because as the speaker said earlier, I've served in every single role and I have every single stake in this district, and I know that we have to treat our students and families like our customers. Otherwise, we are not truly supporting them as we say we want to. This is also why it was really important for my entire team to be here today, because I think as a leader, it's important to make sure that the message is clear and consistent, whether I'm speaking to them in a cabinet meeting, speaking in a town hall meeting, or at a board meeting. The things that I say I value are consistent, and I can say them in every single room that I enter. As we continue to think about the path forward for Chicago Public Schools, fiscal stability is probably one of the biggest hurdles. I know I'm going to hear from you tonight about all the things that we need in this district, and I can tell you right now I agree with you. You'd have to say something absolutely crazy that I would disagree with. I want our kids to have access to every single thing that this world has to offer. We're in a much better place financially. As Dr. Kenner pointed out, principals receive their budgets actually on time this year, but it seemed early because of the delay from years in the past. But as we move forward, I want to continue to do that. But we also know that while we're happy about the additional funds that we received from Springfield last year, it's still not enough. The state of Illinois still has the most regressive funding formula for public education, and they are 49th out of 50 for funding the most vulnerable students. So I need your help to continue to make sure that all of our elected officials throughout the state know that Chicago Public Schools, as well as every other public school system in this state, deserves more funding so that our principals don't have to choose between art and music or PE or world language. They should have access to all of those things. As a school system, we've made incredible progress, but we have not yet closed the achievement gap for Chicago students. I often say that talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. Too many of our talented young people continue to falter, and too much of Chicago's potential is untapped. I need your continued support. As I stated earlier, we all have a stake in public education. We have a shared interest in giving every child the best education possible. And just as I set high expectations for others, I set equally high expectations for myself and for this school district. And with your help, I am confident that we will meet them. I am deeply honored to be serving as the leader of this district. I've said it before, this is a professional dream of mine that I don't take lightly. And I want to thank you for coming out here tonight and listening to my prepared remarks, but I also want to invite you to be partners in this work as we make Chicago Public Schools the best school system in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to also share with you that we have officers here representing our CEO and our Chicago Public Schools. I'd like you to know that the resource tables are available to you after this has convened or finished. If you have any other extended questions, our officers, our chief officers are here, staff, to help you with those questions. Our Office of Safety and Security, Office of Teaching and Learning is here. Our Office of College and Career Success, Office of Diverse Learners, Supports and Services, Office of Early Childhood Education, the Office of Access and Enrollment, the Office of Family and Community Engagement in Education, the Office of Language and Cultural Education, and the Office of Student and Health Wellness are all out there with information for you at the tables in the lobby. As we get ready to move into our Q&A, I'm going to ask that we listen to each and every speaker. We want to be respectful of the speaker. As I said, we are not in the model of a community meeting, so we're asking that those who have signed up to speak, that you would really limit your time. We haven't timed you, so just be very cautious that there are other people behind you that want to speak as well. So those speakers that are holding cards 1 through 5, would you please come down to this area? We have 2 mics. I'm going to relinquish this one, and then we have those over there. Speakers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Saida Segovia Taylor, our face manager in Network 6, will be assisting on that side. Thank you. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, thank you. And we will begin our session now with speaker number 1. And I think the first one that was here was the principal of Rudolph, Holly Dakers, and her team.
Woo! Uh-oh. I know, Saida. I don't really have a question tonight. But like I said, my name is Holly Dakers. I am the proud principal of Rudolph. Thank you to my team over here. I was also on mommy duty and principal duty tonight, so Daddy just came to the rescue. We're a specialty school, and we have some amazing things going on. But I really wanted to say thank you as I talked to somebody from central office today who was helping me. And I said, thank you, because you probably don't hear that enough. But I wanted to go back to the beginning. See, I started my teaching career at Hyde Park, Dr. Jackson. Yay. And like you, I have to thank Linda Murray. And it meant a lot when you wrote about her, not only for having high expectations for our students, but also in me. You may not remember this, but we actually met. And I remember hearing Linda Murray's bangles down the hallway, because she wore them everywhere, and you happened to be walking with her. And of course, I needed to know what was going on. And she said, oh, Holly, this is Janice Jackson. She is going to be one of the youngest principals in CPS. And I said, oh, I need to know her. And I said, I want to be just like you. And that was a while ago, because I don't want to date myself, but this is year 14 or 15 in CPS, actually. But having that journey start at CPS has been amazing. I remember being introduced to you, and the amazing part about Linda, she wanted nothing but the best for her students, and she wanted nothing but the best for me. So if it was, Holly, I need you to start a club. Holly, I need you to chaperone. Holly, let's do an assembly. And I was like, okay, Linda, because this woman believed in the students, and she made me believe in them, which is why I am where I am today. I went from teacher to AP back where you are at Raby, which brought me here to Rudolph, and I can't say thank you. Being a specialty school, it is one of the hardest jobs and one of the most amazing jobs, one being principal. It's so exciting to think that my students are getting opportunities and having high expectations and having a leadership team that not only has high expectations in me, but that I can deliver to my staff and continue to have for my students. And so I remember one thing that you actually said in your former role, and you said, hashtag, I'm built for this. Mm-hmm. And I wake up every morning, and I actually use that when I interviewed for my position. I said, I'm built for this. And it was a rough week last week, and one of my staff members had to remind me, you're built for this. And so for that, I thank you. And I thank everyone for the support, Alderman, for the support along the way, and we couldn't have done it without you. So thank you.
Thank you. And Holly, thank you for those comments. The one other thing that I want to acknowledge is Dr. Smith talked about the merger that's happening, and that was a direct result of your leadership. And again, an example of how I want to lead. We would not have known that that was a possibility and actually the best plan for students had you not brought that to our attention. And now the students will be able to, be educated in a state-of-the-art facility. So thank you for your creativity, and thank you for leading that school initiative. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Rosalinda Garcia, and I'm a parent. I'm the chairperson of the PAC, and I want to say thank you. I'm not the principal, but thank you for having the budget on time. Yes, make the difference. My site director is so happy for that. And a little sad because it's not enough. We have a less to the last year. And I have a lot of things to say to you and share, but the one of the most important for me in this point is they talk to me, they say, you can talk with the heart. And it's hard for me to talk when I put my heart. Okay, in my school, I'm coming from Pulaski International, IB, and we have only one case manager. She have a lot of work. He make like 3 jobs in one, and it's hard for her. We need help there. We need somebody help her because she don't have time to listen and work with kids. And a lot of kids need help. We need a nurse more than 1 day of the week.
You need who?
Nurses.
Nurse, okay, more than 1 day a week, yep.
I know maybe everybody need it, but I have the opportunity to say, yes. And the other one is, I don't see too many people in Hispanic or Latino community, and now it's my responsibility to say to you, remember them, remember us. We need the same opportunities and the same programs we needed. We need more tutoring for us. I know you're going to have our answer for me.
Yep.
I talked to you a few months ago, and you talk about communication is important. Thank you for giving us opportunity to talk to you. The other one, you say the security. And I hope so, you remember too, because it's important for our kids and for the parents to leave a chance in the place is security. And the other one, you say transparency. And thank you, you show me. It's important for you, and you do it. Thank you so much for that. And the other one, I need more representation from the Hispanic people in here.
You need more presentation?
Representation.
Oh, okay.
If I know it's a lot of things coming in translation, but sometimes I can make question. I need to make question.
Yeah.
And the translation isn't enough for us.
Okay.
Think about it, please.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for your wonderful job.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you for all of those comments. And again, this is one of the reasons why we have our whole team here. First, I want to thank you for acknowledging the progress we've made around translations. You know, our goal is to get to a point where every single parent communication that goes out at least in Spanish and Mandarin, and we want to work to go beyond that. But I have made some progress, and so thank you for acknowledging that. But our communications team is here to hear your concerns. We always do have someone on staff to help translate, and we should have made that announcement earlier. So if there are any individuals in the audience who, you know, would like to ask questions in their, you know, in Spanish, we would definitely take those and make sure we take time to translate. So I want to acknowledge that. I should have said that at the top of the speech. One thing that I do think that's important to know is the comment you made around representation for Latinos in the district, which I think is extremely important. We talk a lot about race and equity in our district in the changing makeup of CPS, in that Hispanic students make up almost 50% of the students in our school system. And if you look at the leadership team, and it starts at the top, and we have everybody's profile posted online, I've made a concerted effort to make sure that our cabinet senior level leaders are as diverse as the school system, with African American leaders, Latino leaders, Caucasian leaders, Asian American. So we're trying to do our best and also make sure that we're also creating a diverse teaching core at the school level. One of the announcements that we have made is around this initiative called Teach 2025, where we are trying to attract more teachers into the teaching profession overall, but more importantly, more minority teachers, and we're doing that in a number of ways. But one way that I'm really proud of is our Grow Your Own program. So we want to start encouraging high school age kids to go into teaching. So I say all that to say that there's more to come, and that I recognize and agree with everything that you just pointed out, and you know, we'll continue to work on it. With regard to special education, I want to make sure that you talk to someone at the table before you leave today specifically about your school. I can rattle off all of the investments we've made district-wide, but you're here talking about Pulaski specifically. So I want to make sure we do an analysis and see what's going on there, and make sure that the case manager is getting the support that he or she needs in order to support the kids. So please stop by that table. I think somebody's out there, right? Are they out there now? Oh, I think someone's out there now if you want to stop by, or when we conclude around 7:40-ish, you can go out there and speak to somebody as well, and we can address it on the spot. That's why I had everybody come down here, so you don't have to email and come back. We're going to address it on the spot. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All
My
right.
side director is here.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Rakasi.
I just wanted to let everyone know that we do have translators for Spanish and Mandarin, so if you need it, you know, just put your hand up and I can connect you. So if you need that, let me know.
Should we say that in Spanish and Mandarin so they know? Can we get somebody that can speak
Good
Spanish and
point.
Mandarin?
Too bad my parents didn't speak to me in Spanish.
Okay, thank you.
Buenas tardes. Si alguien necesita traducción, tenemos traductores aquí, así que pueden alzar la mano o venir hacia abajo para darles traducción.
All right. All right. Well, we'll get the person out here. They're probably sitting at the OSE table, but we'll get that out there. Yes, ma'am.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Jackson. My name is Barbara Moschino, and I am representing Washington Irving Elementary School as a parent and the local school council chair. I would like to share a few of the exciting things that have been happening at Washington Irving, and I must first say that a lot of these things have come out of a lot of collaboration with our community, our parents, and our teachers, and that could not be done without that type of collaboration. We feel your passion, we feel your commitment to our kids, and know that you're truly invested in that. So some of the things that we've been growing in the areas of our attendance has risen above 95%. Woohoo! We currently have a learning garden that we are very excited about, especially with spring upon us. Our students can get out there and have a different learning environment. We have recently been awarded a full-day pre-K, which is something that we have been looking forward to for a very, very long time.
That's great.
Also, I would like to acknowledge our student council or student government that we have. Some of our students have come out. If they could just stand up, because this is truly what this is all about. Are they here?
Student
There they are.
voice. Yay.
Let's give them a round of applause. We are so excited to have them here with us because, again, this is creating a voice for them and an opportunity for their voice to be heard. We are also under the leadership of our new administration with Principal Garisher and Principal AP Talley, who have come through the door stumping and making a lot of changes happen, and we are so passionate and appreciative and thankful for them as parents. So I'm sure it's a lot more that I probably have to say, but you have created an opportunity for us to feel like if we need to email somebody, we can email somebody, and I feel confident in saying that because I know that I have done that in the past, and it's been answered. So thank you for all that you're doing, and let's just keep doing this. This is what needs to happen, communication.
Thank you.
you.
Everybody up here is happy that you just said that about answering the emails. All right. She can make an announcement real quick.
Oh, if anybody need Mandarin translation. Oh. 如果有人需要普通话的翻译，让我们知道，有吗 ？Nobody.
All right. Covered that. Dr. Shabazz.
Good evening, Dr. Jackson. I just want to say thank you. At the beginning, before we even had anything, you've always been a champion of Crane Medical Prep High School, and I just want to thank you for that. I also want to thank you for Go CPS, for a school that has a selection process through Magnet. We never knew who our students were. We didn't know who was applying, and this year has just been so much easier to know who our students are and to get those responses so much faster. So I just want to thank you for that. I guess my question is, well, it's not a guess, how do we get more people to know about schools like Crane Medical Prep? I have a brag sheet, and in a few short years, we've done so much over here on the west side of Chicago. We've been level 1 or level 1 plus since we opened in 2013. 100% of our first graduating class was accepted into college, and our valedictorian from last year actually attends Dartmouth College. The class of 2017 had 2 University of Chicago scholars, a Posse scholar, and 2 Chicago scholars. That class also earned over $14 million in scholarship money. We have 1 student this year who has earned on his own $1.1 million in scholarships. We have surpassed clap it up for my baby. He's going to Howard. Yes, my alma mater. We've surpassed the district average in our ACT scores and ISB science assessment and the PARCC exam. We have an amazing partnership with Rush. We have a health science pipeline program, and we have so many of our students who are choosing to start their education at Malcolm X College, which is right down the street. It's the Beacon City College for Health Science, and they'll finish their degree at Rush University. It's going to save their families a tremendous amount of money. We have paid internships for all students, and we have a health IT program where our students can do health IT, and they can actually earn a livable wage when they graduate from high school, and that was also very important for us. And starting with this year's incoming class, we will be early college STEM, which means that our students can graduate with an associate's degree. We also have, yay!
Well, I guess you promoting now. So.
Listen, send me your baby. Dr.
Right.
Jackson gonna help me.
No.
So I just want to know, how do we get the word out? Because I know that as a parent and as a auntie, and I talk to so many parents who go through the high school selection process and they're devastated. and a lot of them don't know about the options that are available to their children. And if they just have more information about the schools in their communities, we'll take great care of them. We'll make sure they get to college. We'll make sure they have the monies that they need to go there. And if we could just get that information out, I think that would be best for our community and our school district.
Thank you. So enrollment is a big issue, and one of the first things that I've tried to tackle. I think Go CPS is the first step in that, in making it more transparent. You know, I heard from a lot of families that they didn't even know some of these options existed. We put the school quality rating policy, the level right next to the school, so parents are more aware. And I think that was step one. But one of the things that we've heard, because, you know, as Chip said earlier, I do roundtable meetings. I also meet with principals and different types of principals. I'll have a session with just our neighborhood school principals or our IB principals so I can hear their unique needs. And what I heard from the neighborhood school principals is that they need help with exactly what you just said, support promoting their schools. And that looks a few different ways. Number one, I worked at a school where we had a really sophisticated marketing apparatus. So I know what that looks like. And I know that that's impossible to do in every school if you don't have enough counselors. Some schools only have one counselor, and that person is the counselor case manager and doing all sorts of things. And so what we want to do is create opportunities for schools who would like to institute a marketing program for their school. And we're working now to get grant dollars that we would roll out next year where schools would put together their own marketing plan, because we can do stuff high level at the district level, but nothing works like targeted marketing. And we would give them grants of around $10,000 so that they could go out and market their schools, create brochures, host events, etc. So again, that's just one of the many things that are coming down the pipe in order to help support our neighborhood schools in particular, because that's the group that we're going to be targeting. And it's just one step in the right direction, because my goal is to make sure that people understand that we have more than 5 good high schools in Chicago. And when I have conversations with people, they only talk about a few schools. No offense, Whitney Young, one of the 5. But there are a lot of great schools in our city, but at the end of the day, parents are let down every single year through that process, and we need to make sure that there are more open enrollment seats where you don't have to jump through too many hoops in order to guarantee that your child has access to a high-quality school, and so that's the goal. So I hope that answers part of your question, and it's one of the things we're trying to do in order to move in that direction. Thank you.
Speakers 6 through 10, please come down to the podium area. Speaker 5.
Hi, I'm Dana Galati, the assistant principal at Rudolph. You already heard a little bit about Rudolph tonight. I just really wanted to highlight something that we're most excited about this school year. Our students they come from all over the city with the most significant disabilities, and we work to achieve so much with them academically, socially, emotionally. Anything that we can to prepare them for the future outside our school walls. And one of the things that we, under the leadership of Holly and under the support of the network and the district, were able to really do this year was get our co-location proposal into reality. And we are so thankful to everyone from the alderman to the network to your leadership to the board for being there and supporting us. Because it's what's best for kids. And I do wholeheartedly believe under your leadership and under the direction that we're going in, that all of the decisions that are being made are what's best for kids. So I'm simply here to shine a light on all the good work that our students are doing and to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
Before we go on to the next speaker, I would like to acknowledge our technology director here, because we try to do a lot with Parent Portal. So Phil DiBartolo, if you have any questions about Parent Portal, he's here to answer questions. Next speaker, 6.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I just wanted to say, I'm from Wells High School. My name is Peter Poulos. I'm the director of the Law Academy there. I've been there for 18 years since we started the Law Academy. Before I even talk about that, I do want to thank CPS, the leadership, everybody for the lovely new multi-use field that we have built, which is just it's a dream come true. We've waited years for it, and it's absolutely more than we could have hoped for. So thank you very much for that. I wanted to echo something that you said, Dr. Jackson, about how people don't believe it when you tell them that our district is on the rise. Because I have a similar situation when I tell people that I'm a high school law teacher. Every time I meet somebody and they ask me what I do, and I tell them I'm a teacher, and they say, what do you teach? And I say law, and I know exactly what's coming next. Law? In high school? We didn't have that in high school. Well, I didn't have that in high school either. I grew up in a very nice high school in the northern suburbs, nice high school in the northern suburbs where they had everything. They didn't have a law program. We've had one for 18 years at Wells. My students from my program have won 8 Posse scholarships. That's 8. Those are full ride scholarships. Those are full ride scholarships to top 20 liberal arts schools. My students recently won their 2nd consecutive city mock trial championship. We've won 5 of them in the last 10 years. The simple wealth of opportunities that students have in CPS is something that should be trumpeted as much as possible. And I love the fact that we get to come out here and talk about it, and talk about it in front of leadership, and thank leadership for giving us the opportunity to speak of these things. There are so many schools that are doing so many wonderful things, and it is going to be a group effort to convince people so that they no longer ask you or even question why you would say that we are a district on the rise. And just in closing, I really have to thank CPS for giving me the opportunity to have such a unique teaching position. There are only, I think, 7 law programs in the city. It's a rare thing. I feel lucky to have done it for as long as I have, and there's something new every day, and we just also got 30 brand new Chromebooks for my program, so I want to thank you for that directly. It's greatly appreciated. There's so many opportunities, and I can't wait to see where we go next. So Wells High School thanks you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Lizbeth Lee, and I'm a parent and at part of the PAC BOG group from Phoenix Military Academy. I want to tell you a story. I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. So I live in Bridgeport, and I'm very proud to actually have a bumper magnet that says PMA. Pretty proud parent. I played the CPS selective enrollment game. Oh, my son did, really. And I always said he lost, but not anymore. Because I was somewhere in the grocery store, and some parent came over and said, "What's Phoenix Military Academy?" And I'm like, "Well, let me tell you." So I talked to her, and she's like, "Oh, I pass it all the time." And I just said, yeah, that's the one. And I'm very proud of it because what Mr. Whip and his administration and the teachers are doing, that's what everybody should be doing. They should be looking at what they're doing and really go with it. Primarily because now my social media boosts it up, because I've been a person that says, I love the school. It's turned my son into, I don't even know who he is anymore because he's so good. You know, he went, I mean, I'm serious. He went through, you know, I really expected him to not do well because he was miserable, and he actually did well, but it's because the school like PMA did so good at looking at him and his talents and incorporating the military feel to him, and he made it academically. I mean, he's actually #1 in the school right now, and that's why I'm a big proponent for this, I'm telling you. And so when my social media popped up, I didn't even know what had happened. That was even before Mr. Whip's announcement about #4. I had people coming and sending me messages, showing me the news, look at what your school is doing. And I felt so proud because that is exactly what I want to, like, I want to take what his administration is doing, what Mr. Whip's doing, and, you know, and replicated everywhere else. And I think that we are getting there. And I just wanted to tell you that as a parent, I'm really excited. I really would like more parents involved, and I think going to some of the Latin American group, because this is 75% Latin American. And I'm telling you, it's really tough because of the language barrier. And even though Mr. Whip speaks Spanish, by the way, so you all learn from him. But that was one of the greatest things, because I came in and I'm like, everybody's speaking 2 languages, and it was catering to that community. And that's what's really working for us. So I just want to say
Thank you for those comments. And your recommendation around the importance of languages.
Good evening, Dr. Jackson. My name is Randall Blakey. I serve LaSalle Street Church as its executive pastor and the Near North Unity Program as its executive director. I also co-chair, along with Rabbi Seth Limmer, the Jenner-Ogden Steering Committee. And the Jenner-Ogden merger possibility became a thought as early as 2012, and we began to surface it with then Robert Croston, who was a principal at Jenner, and Principal Beyer, who is still at Ogden. And yeah, let's give Principal Beyer a hand.
Yay.
We began to surface that idea, and it came from the Near North Unity Program's Youth and Families chairperson, who just thought that it would be a good idea, instead of just watching a school close. Jenner at the time was under-enrolled, Ogden was over-enrolled, but instead of watching the school close, what about combining those schools and bringing about some cross-cultural learning that could benefit everyone, especially those students at Jenner who deserve an IB curriculum and deserve educational equity and have deserved it for some time. I have to say that we started the formal process in 2015 and completed that process just in 2018 on February 28th, when the board unanimously voted to approve this merger. I want to stand today to affirm not only your leadership and your early support of this particular merger, but also the leadership of CPS. CPS did a stellar job with just staying in touch with us, continuing to communicate with us throughout this entire process. We went through a number of different channels. As I stated, we started the formal process in 2015. We ended in 2018. We had to be patient, but every step of the way, CPS was there, and they did not give up on the process, nor did they give up on the community who was pushing this process forward. As we stand now, the schools are prepared to realize this particular merger. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight is in the report that we provided to CPS, there was a section in there that had to do with identity, the identity of Jenner and the identity of Ogden, and preserving the identity of both of those schools. That is ultra imperative and important as we move forward, particularly as we move forward to thinking about the renaming of this new merged school. The Jenner population, as you know, has a rich history in that community and in the Cabrini Green area, as does Ogden. And we want to make sure that both are supported and both are upheld with the renaming and with the merger moving forward. And so my question is, if there's any additional support that CPS can give to that particular process. I know that there's going to be community meetings and so forth and so on, but if there's any additional support to that process, I would ask that CPS do whatever they can do to try to support the identities and preserving the identities of both Jenner and Ogden throughout the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Blakey, you, as I'm sure you're aware, I want to just say it for the group, that the policy is such that the local school council is the only entity authorized to change the name of the school. And because of the rules that govern the merger, I think Ogden is the name that is officially on the school, but the local school council can definitely offer a request to change the name of the school, and then there's a process for community engagement, and then ultimately vote on that. So I personally agree with that. I think it's important to preserve the identity of both schools, but just like your process has been from the beginning, it's completely community owned, and you guys will have to come together and give us that proposal, and then I'm sure that the Board of Education would support that if it has the level of community support that your merger had. So thank you. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Land. I'm the parent of a 6th grade student with Ogden International's West Campus. I volunteer extensively with the school security team during student lunch periods at the West Campus, and I was recently elected to join the local school council at the next term. I spoke at public forums and at the Board of Education hearing in support of the Ogden-Jenner school merger because I believe it's the right thing to do and the best for all of our students. I have so much confidence in our school administration and our teachers that I'm not worried about their ability to plan and execute our merger with a logistical and academic point of view. Our students have been spending shadow days together at the various campuses, and I know that all of our kids are going to adapt just fine. As I looked at what I could participate in to help make this merger successful, I believe that working with other parents to build and strengthen our parent community is where we really need to spend time to get the most impact right now. Growing a community requires personal interaction more than just sending out emails or giving out flyers to go home in the backpacks after school. It requires spending time together, breaking bread together, talking about our stories, our hopes, our concerns, and identifying what information we may need as parents that we don't already have. And to that end, there have been several parent-targeted activities I wanted to share with you this evening. First, each month we have what we call a seed dinner. This is a Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity dinner, and parents from both the Ogden and Jenner communities can come sit together, break bread, and talk and learn from each other. A series of questions is available in the cup at each table, and we draw questions to stimulate thought-provoking conversation. I've been fortunate enough to attend a few of these dinners, and I have found it so inspiring and eye-opening to sit with these people who I would otherwise not have a chance to sit with, that I now plan my life around it so I can attend. Secondly, we have regular town hall forums to discuss the merger. We've been so fortunate that Park Community Church has offered space for our use, and so far we've had a dinner meeting and a breakfast meeting, potluck, in order to answer questions and share information in an informal setting. We're finding that because of parents' work schedules, we have to be creative about what time we can sit down and talk to each other. It also became clear to us recently that we have different communication cultures at the various campuses. Ogden is almost exclusively digital, and Jenner is primarily a paper and phone-oriented school. So a diverse group of Ogden parents have recently been tasked with phone banking, where we started with a phone contact list of Jenner parents, and we called them personally. We want to make sure that parents coming from Jenner to Ogden know that they are welcome, to ensure that they have correct basic information about the plans for the merged school, and to give them a way to ask questions for things they want more information about. I was very happy to meet a mom of a Jenner 8th grade student to whom I talked on the phone as part of my call list in person at the town meeting breakfast this past Saturday morning. There are many more activities in the works, but I just wanted to share these few that I've personally been involved in as we work to establish a unified Ogden International parent community.
Wow, thank you. A couple of things on the Ogden-Jenner merger. You jogged my memory. I actually met an 8th grader from Ogden who at Whole Foods on Division. Is that Division or North Avenue? And I'm sorry, is that Mariano's or Whole Foods? I can't even remember which one it is. The one in the movie theater. I was going in there to buy something and then go in the movie theater, so I'm telling on myself. But the student had on the Jenner shirt, and I remember asking, like I always do without telling him who I was, what he thought about the merger. And I remember the student didn't have a lot of information about the merger, but what he did share with me is that he was excited that he would get to go to Ogden High School, which, again, back to our story around enrollment, that he had worried about where he would go, and it just was such a relief that he didn't have to worry about what school he would be going to next year. So hopefully there are more and more stories like that. And I just want to say that your model I mean, the process you took is serving as a model for us. I saw a report recently that talked about all the things you just outlined, and we're actually using that in some of the other school actions. Some are more contentious for obvious reasons, but we're using that as a way to kind of bring the two communities together post the school action decision. And so I just want you to know that not only are you doing what's right for children and to bring this community together, and it is hard work, and it is difficult work because it's not easy to bring together two communities where everyone is the same from a race and SES standpoint, but when you really start talking about merging communities where there are racial differences and socioeconomic differences, it really does take the type of collaboration and the type of love that you guys are displaying. And as a district, we are learning from you from that. So thank you for your hard work. I know we're not perfect, but we're going to continue to work to become a better district, and you guys are serving as role models to us, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Speakers 11 through 15, please.
Speaker number 10. Good evening, Dr. Jackson, and those of you who came out to Numero Uno this evening. William Scott, an educator emeritus, but as I stand before you, 52 years after I arrived in Chicago, thanks to a letter from Superintendent Redmond, I wrote him from New York University and asked him, did Chicago welcome out-of-town educators? And he personally wrote back. I guess he wrote a good letter. 52 years, I'm still here, and as Jake Lamato said, still standing, Ray, and still smiling and proud to be an educator. I came out to, frankly, just size you up. I saw
Thank you for your honesty.
I saw you as a tree in a forest Claypool in the background, and I really had not heard what I called other than sound bites. And as a true history teacher and historian, I really feel the only way you can get down to who someone is to hear it for yourself, face to face from the person. So when you took that lectern tonight after that brilliant young lady who introduced herself, then introduced you, but at least I know who she is now. And I said, I know who she is, and we want to get her signed up for something later this year. But just to let you know, I'm so pleased with your openness and transparency, as they call it in the business, that I won't even attempt to go into my 5-decade agenda tonight. I can just follow you to the other sessions that are coming up with tidbits of them. Okay. But I did want to say this is truly a historic moment here in Chicago, because when I arrived in this city, August of '66, that was the same summer that Dr. King filled up Soldier Field. And that hasn't been filled up civil rights-wise since then. Yeah. So I'm glad you are filling up these auditoriums to get your message and your agenda, not by way of those Fox 32 distorted sound bites, but straight from you. So, thank you. Getting down to particulars, I would like to say that, first of all, I would like to thank the Phillips High School community who gave me 15 unbroken years as I just arrived here, young, gifted, and black, 26 years old, and I'm 77 right now, and as I said, still smiling and still enthusiastic. It was my New York City teachers who were so dazzlingly brilliant that I actually sat in a high school class and said, gosh, I would like to really do that. Next to Christ, that's the best decision I know I made in my life, and of course my wife and children. But to choose education, I can truly say to the true teachers in the room, when you choose education, you're really choosing something beyond a career or a salary. As far as I'm concerned, I've never been to work in the ditch digging phrase of it, because just give me a class of students cold, and I'm ready to roll. When I saw the students that played in that ensemble, and the students that stood in the back there from any school in student government, and the young lady who spoke so eloquently, that's my genre really right there. So I'm hearing where you're going. I took notes about it, going to hold your feet to the fire regarding it. But to give you one of my agenda topics, I'm absolutely convinced when you introduced Alderman William Burnett, I said, well, now you're talking what I'm talking about, because I really feel that one of our great underutilized resources is not connecting our elected officials with our student government leaders. And although I did hear from Ms. Fowler that you do have a group called Voices and you have a private entourage, so as to say, I really believe that you don't need to have that type of kitchen cabinet. You should insist that student government be student government or student council in the schools, so that at any time you want to hear the authentic voice of students, well, after all, the elected student government leaders and their homeroom representative at any time should be as lucid as what we saw with Parkland. I am so proud of those students from Parkland who, when I saw them even on Face the Nation one Sunday, I said, oh my God, I've died and gone to heaven. Here's high school students who could be on a national TV talk show and expound why they were marching in Washington, D. that Sunday. So what I would like to suggest, and of course not just suggest but work with you, I really feel that you should make that a priority agenda, that on your watch, that student government not just be cosmetic or graffiti removers or taffy apple sellers, but really the authentic voice of students on where they are and where they'd like to go. I will offer my services to you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, sir, in our 3-year strategic plan, which I'm happy to make sure we get you a copy of, one of the goals is to have a student voice committee, which it goes beyond just student government at every single high school in the city. So that's one of our goals. But the other thing that's near and dear to my heart is that when I became a network chief, which is when you work with a group of schools, I had only worked in high school, so I knew the importance of student voice from the high school perspective. I was stunned at the lack of student voice in the elementary schools, and so part of our plan is also to work to get those student voice committees at the elementary schools. And they have real agendas. My group, they're actually going to be presenting at this board meeting, so it is a kitchen cabinet. I call them, they tell me what to say, they tell me if my social media looks right and all of that. But they do publicly speak, and they will be coming to the board. I've had them speak directly to the mayor and other people in power so that they can, have their voices heard. But it is a work in progress, and I think you're right. In too many of our schools, the student council is planning parties and, doing fundraisers, and all of that is important. But we have to teach our kids about the civic process. I'm a former history teacher as well, and we have to teach all of our students and our people the importance of voting. I can't stress it enough. So I'm with you. I hope I pass the test. If not, I'm going to retake it because I don't like to fail. But thank you for coming out, and thank you for your honesty.
Speaker number 11. Yeah. 11 over there?
It's 11.
Go to the
11
next one.
Okay, 12. Where's 11?
Do we have 11 there?
Yeah, come on.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. And thank you very much for what you're doing. Because what you're doing is for the first time in my 72 years that somebody is freeing the students. Oh, good. You are liberating them through their minds. You're letting them be creative. I would like to see you add knowledge to it. Yep. Knowledge so that they can not only have attitude, but have altitude. That's all I have to say. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's try to keep our remarks concise and quick, because we have a lot more speakers we want to get to the table.
Yep.
Speaker number 13.
All right. Hi.
Hello? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Everybody had such great things to say. First of all, thank you for this, because without this, then we have no voice, and we haven't for a long time. I am a mother of 4, extended mother of 6. I have 2 stepchildren at Lincoln Park High School, which is my alma mater, and I have 3 school-aged children, 2 at Prescott, which is not in this network, but 1 at Pulaski. Previous to my school-aged children being in the schools they are in now, They were at Otis, which is in the network. In my opinion, through my experience, Otis is a failing school. I put a lot of that on the leadership, and I expect accountability. Unfortunately, my experiences with CPS were started prior to you came in, and they were very unfortunate experiences, to a point where I am a proud product of CPS. I have always advocated for public schools, and now with my soon-to-be 2-year-old, I'm not sure if public school is for him, unfortunately. But that's why I'm here, because no school should fall through the cracks. In the Westtown neighborhood, which is where I was born and raised, a few miles north of here, there are a lot of charter schools, new charter schools, a very big influx. A lot of the neighborhood schools turned into selective schools, and we are left with just a handful of neighborhood schools. And like I said, unfortunately, I feel as though one of the major ones is failing. Alderman Burnett is here, and I have to see Peabody every day, where a lot of students had to leave Peabody and go to Otis as well, and unfortunately, a lot of those kids left that school as well. We've lost our neighborhood schools in this neighborhood. So it's very important that when you say inequity shouldn't be there, it really shouldn't, and it is. It's still there, even in neighborhoods where it costs $1 million to live on the block. So I want to just say thank you, because this is really big for me. Before you coming in an interim Network 6 chief, my emails weren't answered. My phone calls were bare to none. To transfer my students out of the school that I consider failing, I did 90% of the work. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, and I really hope, I'm putting faith and hope that this is what's going to make it happen, and that's why I'm still here. I'm not sure if you noticed, I've been at the school board meetings almost.
I know, your name is Miss Rios.
Yeah.
I know exactly who you are.
That's me.
I read all of my emails,
Yeah.
even the bad ones. So.
Yeah, I'm a firecracker, for sure. But I'm invested. I have 6 kids in the system, or 5 kids in the system. So we're not just your customers, we're your family. Okay. You know, what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. And I really hope that that's the truth. So I'm here just because I want all the parents to know that they can demand accountability from these schools in every sense of the way, as far as academics, as far as safety and security, communication. It's important that we get it all and not just parts of it, because I could tell you, from moving my kids out of one school to other schools, and transitions are hard, especially now having 3 kids in 2 different schools. We are in a so much better situation. So I know that public schools produce great things, because I'm living it right now. But there are still students in Otis that need that same thing. And inclusiveness is very important. When I reached out to some of those parents that are still there asking if they were going to come here tonight, they had no idea this was happening. The LSC there is not very proactive. All the meetings are at 3 o'clock. You know, it's important that all schools are being monitored and are accountable the same way, because we all deserve it. All those kids deserve it. So I just thank you again. I don't mean to be like the cloud, but thank you very much. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm not sure if I'll be at the next school board meeting, but I'm sure you won't not see me.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your comments. And of course, they're welcome. It's not all, you know, rainbows and ice cream. There are, you know, real challenges that we face in our district. And first, I want to make sure that you reconsider your choice for your 2-year-old. Chicago Public Schools, as you know, because of the other choices that you have accessed, we have a lot of amazing schools. Because, you know, you name the school publicly, I do think it's important, and I'm not sure if there's anyone here to represent the school, but I did take your concern seriously. We looked into them, and I think it's important that we also respect the processes that we have in place, in particular the local school councils, which is something, when I came into this role, I reprioritized, because I feel like, this is just my opinion, in the past, local school councils were used when they were convenient to drive the district's initiative, but not when they disagreed. And in this case, the local school council, there are parents who support the leadership of the school, when I say open and transparent, that doesn't mean we're going to always agree, but that means I promise to listen and give you a response. And I know that we gave a response that we thought was best, and we helped you along the way with the choice that you made, and I'm glad to hear that things are working out. I do think the issue around equity is something that's real, and what I wanted to make sure people in this room were aware of is that we want to do a community by community approach to look at exactly what you just said. We want to go and have the type of meetings in some parts of the city, people need another high school. In other parts, they need a quality high school, or they have too many of this program and not enough of this. And so part of what I want to do over the next 12 to 18 months is have my team go out and have those conversations, and it's a long process, but we have the data. We want to make that data public and sit down with concerned parents and community members so that we can come up with plans, just like the plans we talked about today. You know, Rudolph happened because of people in the community. Ogden Jenner happened because of community plans. We need more and more of those things because we don't want to just make those decisions from central office. So I hear you. I will make sure you get the information when we start to have those briefings around quality options in that region, and would love for you to come out to those meetings and help us think about what kind of programs we can add to make sure that more parents don't, in that area have a high quality school and don't have to travel to 3 and 4 different schools to make sure their kids are, getting what they need. So look for that information. Zaida will make sure you have it as soon as those meetings are set. So thank you for your comments tonight. Oh. I know we're going to break so that people can visit the tables. I don't know how many speakers signed up. I want to try to get through as many as possible. Oh, my goodness. All right. Okay. If we can just quickly do questions and then I can answer, we can try to get as many people in with the time that we have.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Jackson, I just want to thank you. Thank you for creating the vision that you have for Chicago Public Schools and sharing that vision and allowing parents to have a voice in that vision. I also want to thank you for the budget, for giving the budget to the principals early so that they can adequately and effectively plan for educating our children. Also, thank you for having the roundtable discussions as well as the town hall meetings. So if you can't make it to the board meeting, we can come here and discuss any concerns that we may have with the time limit, and also say our thank yous in person. I know it's not easy, the new job that you have as CEO of Chicago Public Schools, but with the grace of God and the support of parents, teachers, principals, and the community, Chicago Public School System will be at the top of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Jackson. I just want to say thank you again for having this forum tonight, and I'm not going to do my responses for the sake of time.
Okay.
I just wanted to recommend to CPS, you're having these meetings, perhaps the transition website that you had set up is a great way to engage community that cannot come out to these meetings tonight, because there's a lot of impactful things that are being said that a large group of, certainly my parents from my school at LaSalle too, will be completely unaware of that ever occurred. So that will be my statement for this evening, and thank you again for the Ogden-Jenner merger. And it's important for families to know they can engage with CPS because there is a path. It takes a lot of time and patience and creativity to get through it. And like you said, a lot of good data to support the suggestions. So I just encourage people, don't give up.
No, we won't. Thank you. And help us spread the word. I mean, we want to fill these auditoriums. We have 4 more to go, so we'll resend that out. If you're on Twitter, retweet it. If you have the emails, forward them to other people. And you can come to any of them, whether you have children or live in the regions. We just divided it up that way to make it convenient, but you can come to all 5 of them like this gentleman said he's going to do. So spread the word.
We have 16 through 20. 16 through 20. Come down, please. I'm going to go to speaker number 18 since she's here. Okay?
Hi, Dr. Jackson. Thank you for being here. It's very good. I'm a teacher. I'm a veteran educator, and my name is Noreen Gudekunst, and I'm a staff person with the Teachers Union. And we hear from a lot of our members about the issues out in the schools. And one of the things that we hear is that a big concern is with the student-based budgeting system. And this system is kind of forcing principals to choose between having a library with a librarian or a music program, and hiring a teacher to teach students. And you know, you were talking about equity before, and this is a real issue for some schools have wonderful, fabulous programs, and we've heard about a few of them tonight, and then some schools have almost nothing. And those students won't get a second chance at that. And so this student-based budgeting program, you didn't institute it. Your predecessor didn't even institute it. But all of this has been really under the control of Mayor Emanuel, who does really very closely control what goes on in Chicago Public Schools. So what I want to ask of you is that you take back to the mayor that this is a system that really needs to be abolished, that we really need actual equity for our students. And sometimes equity means an additional investment in certain of our schools and certain of our students, so that a principal doesn't have to choose between having a quality program that would enrich the education of their kids and even hiring a veteran educator, because another impact of this is that veteran educators are being pushed out of the profession. So can you take that back to the mayor?
That's not what I'm going to take back to the mayor, but I will respond to your question. First, I didn't institute student-based budgeting, but I do think that student-based budgeting is something that I agree with. However, I think because CPS, first of all, it's more fair, and I'm going to tell you my experience. I was a principal for 11 years. I remember the old system, and it wasn't perfect. People who had access and power and parents who could write letters, they got more resources. I was one of those principals. I would call down and say we needed an extra this, that, or whatever. So it is a more transparent system. The problem with student-based budgeting in our context is the enrollment decline that we're experiencing. Because schools who have a lot of students, they can do all of the things that you just outlined, and then schools that are experiencing an enrollment decline cannot. But what I did, not Mayor Emanuel, is when we passed the budget this year, I set aside $14 million for those types of schools, because I knew that it wasn't an adequate answer to just tell people, well, you only have 250 students or X number of students, so here is your budget. I provided them with the certainty that they need to offer a program. With that said, it's adequate. It's not the program that any of us want for children. We don't want people making those choices. But we all know how schools are funded in Illinois. So if we are serious about fixing this, you can't go after one man. You have to go after the General Assembly, because there are a collection of people who have the power to change this. Because right now in Illinois, not if Rahm Emanuel woke up and decided to do this, and I'm not defending the mayor, I'm just making sure the right information is out here, because I am serious about this problem being fixed. And it's not going to be fixed unless the state of Illinois puts more money into public education. We, CPS and CTU and everybody else, need to be standing in the street together with pitchforks asking for more money for our schools, not going after one person in the decisions that they make. So when you all are ready to seriously hold the people accountable who have the power to change the most regressive funding formula, you like data, go to the Ed Trust. They don't know anything. They don't care anything about CPS. They're unbiased. Illinois is 50 out of 50 of states. After Mississippi, Arkansas, all the other states that you would think would be more regressive, 50 out of 50 for funding public education, and 49th out of 50 for helping the most vulnerable students. Let's start there, because that's where the money is.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Jackson. My name is Kevin Lopez. I'm the LSC chair at Jackson, Andrew Jackson, close by here, Network 6. I'm also a parent of two students. So we have an 8th grader that's graduating from Jackson, a high schooler that's graduating from Peyton. Three things that I've noticed in my 13 plus years here is three things I'm going to talk about: growth, opportunity, and diversity. So growth, numbers, right? So everything that we see on the LSC is around numbers. And the numbers do not adequately reflect what's taking place in our school. So that's a challenge for you, because you have to find ways that You're not going to, punish teachers and punish principals based off of some arbitrary number that gets kind of thrown out for growth. Because I'll tell you, an experience of mine was one of my daughter's best years, she didn't hit a growth number. But that was her most, substantial growth that she had as a student. Kids are growing as learners. So we're seeing the kids that are growing more and more because they're getting opportunities that aren't always there, that weren't always there with just the numbers and the number-based system, with music, with art, with different things that they're being able to challenge to do. I'm also part of the STEM Challenge. So I participated in the STEM Challenge up at Foreman this year. I did a different school last year. And you got to see the kids that have that opportunity that maybe aren't the best performing students. I was one of them. I just found my 8th grade report card about a week ago. It was terrible. And thank God I had opportunities that other people shown to me. So the opportunity is, finding arts programs, finding vocational programs, finding other things that are going to differentiate us, and then the diversity. So finding parents, finding diverse learners, and people that can also teach and mentor and show our children ways and opportunities, because I did not know of the opportunities that I got into now as an adult, working for one of the largest corporations in the world and being a STEM Challenge, presenter and doing all that stuff. Didn't have that, didn't know of that. So help our kids to do that and help them to know that if they're not part of that growth number, that's okay. They could still grow and they could still learn other ways. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments because a few things you said resonated with me. So the growth comment I think is really important. One of the things that I like to stress, and I did this as a principal, is that we have to focus on growth but also attainment. And the reason the district started prioritizing growth is because we would only look at attainment. You remember back we would say if a kid is on grade level or not, and many of our students weren't. And a lot of them still aren't on grade level the way that they should be. But when we started to give them credit for growing, so I worked at one of the toughest high schools in Chicago, in the state at the time when I started teaching in '99. And I had students who were reading on a 5th grade level. And if I had them reading on an 8th grade level at the end of the year, I didn't get any credit for that. They grew 3 years under my tutelage, but I didn't get any credit. So we did that as a way, and I think that has led to some of the attainment. But I think we have to do both, and I like what you're saying. People ask me, what's the next step for Chicago Public Schools, and I talk about the programs in STEM, and we want to incorporate more science and all of that. But really, it goes down to just a real personal thing for me, which is I wish when I walk into every school, every kid is learning for the sake of learning. That's my vision, ultimately. We're not there yet. A lot of our students are working really hard towards some of those growth numbers and test scores and all of that, and I think it's great, and I'm going to talk about why I think that's important, but I know they will go so much further if that true love for learning is there, and sometimes that comes out in the classroom, in an art class, in the language class, and all these other things that make up the whole child. But I do want to share with you, just because I think it's important that you guys know where I'm coming from, and I say this to students all the time. I say it to my kids. I say it to students that I have had the opportunity to lead. Most of our kids are minority students and low-income students in Chicago. And when they walk in a room where the people pretend to see in something else, they see their color first. And I tell my kids all the time, if you don't have what's needed on paper, you will not get the opportunities that you deserve. Because we know that there are kids who have what they need on paper and still don't get it. And so I know that's an old school mentality, that's how I was raised, but I feel so passionate about this work that I have to tell kids, I know how I got to this spot, and I had to work twice as hard and be twice as better than everybody I competed against. And unfortunately, we still live in America where you have to do that. And so it's not one or the other. I appreciate your comments. I agree with them, and that's part of my big fantasy for this district. We're just not there yet. But it's both, because when our babies show up, people still don't see what we see in them. And so they have to come to the table with the academics and the paperwork behind them so that they cannot be denied all of the things that this country has to offer. So that's what drives me. I appreciate your comments, but I just wanted to make sure you know where I'm coming from when I talk about this kind of stuff, because I want to change the narrative about what it means to be a minority, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a person from Chicago coming from a low-income background. Our kids can do it, and people just have to start believing in them.
Very much. Next speaker.
Hello, Dr. Jackson. My name is Dave O'Malley. I'm a parent at Andrew Jackson.
Yes.
Like Kevin, I wanted to thank you for this opportunity. I just wanted to talk about the reason we picked Andrew Jackson. I have 2 children. They're right up here in 2nd grade. Kindergarten, I'm a relatively new parent. And I just wanted to say that the reason we picked Andrew Jackson because of the academics, but the reason we really love it is because of the staff. They're so warm, and I want to talk about the intangibles. Academics is important, but so are intangibles. There's so many opportunities that I've seen there. My little daughter going to kindergarten, and she couldn't open the door. Other little kids would stay, and they would help her open the door. And so it's just, the kids are very respectful. The staff is so warm. It's nice that the staff knows all the kids' names, just first couple weeks at school. And I just wanted to say that that's really important to me and my family. One thing that you did talk about was high school. That's something, we're a few years away, but that's something that's important. Like you said, there's 5 high schools, this being one of them that are coveted. We hope there's more. So I hope we move forward towards that. And thank you for having this. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, so we are, sir, I'm sorry. As I stated earlier, we are trying to do these community by community convenings where we talk about the needs, and so we will make sure, if you leave your information with Saito, I'll make sure you're invited when we start to talk about the needs. We are aware of needs for high quality options in this area, but I also want to just echo what Ms. Shabazz said about Crane, which is not too far from here. It's a great school, and so a part of this is us coming together and making sure people understand everything that's in the area. But I do know that high schools are critically important. We've made a lot of progress, in particular at the elementary school level, but I'm not yet satisfied with all of our options, but we have some good ones out there that haven't been tapped, and I want to create more. So there are going to be more opportunities to have that conversation, and we will make sure we share that. And if anybody else wants information about those meetings in any region, you can check in with our FACE manager, and we'll make sure you get that information. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kate Getz. My child has been a CPS student since kindergarten and will be graduating from Whitney Young next month. Don't clap for me. The consent decree that addressed longstanding racial inequities within CPS was lifted early in my child's time as a student. And since then, I've become increasingly concerned and often outraged about inequities in access to well-resourced schools in Chicago based on neighborhood of residence, race, and socioeconomic status. I could give lots of examples, but to keep it personal, we selected an elementary school based largely on finding one where the demographics reflected those of the city as a whole, which was like finding a needle in a haystack. And then we watched the school become much whiter and higher income across her 7 years there. And then my child selected Whitney Young starting in 7th grade, and we've watched Whitney Young become whiter and higher income across the 6 years that she's been here. Dr. Jackson, you mentioned expanding school choice and investing in neighborhood schools. And given the reality of inadequate funding, those two strategies often seem to be in conflict. I also noticed you have not specifically mentioned charter schools, which many of us believe, combined with student-based budgeting, to make inequitable distribution of resources worse by pulling students and funding away from traditional neighborhood schools, especially high schools. I was going to ask you to please describe in a bit more detail plans for increasing equity in CPS, but in light of the time constraints, I'm going to focus a little more and also ask you to please tell us why students and parents should believe and trust that CPS is genuinely committed to increasing equity in light of recent votes by the unelected Board of Education in the face of overwhelming parent opposition, to close National Teachers Academy, which is a high-performing majority black elementary school, and also to close the 4 neighborhood high schools in Englewood. Thank you.
Good. A couple of things in that. I'll start with just my overarching philosophy and then answer your question specifically about the 2 school actions. I do believe that charter schools, and I didn't talk about it tonight because we invited CPS schools, but I've been on record and been clear that I am pro-choice. I'm not one of those people that believe that charter schools are the cure to everything. I also know for a fact that they have provided high-quality options for many parents, in particular in low-income areas where they did not have a lot of options. With that said, I've also seen a lot of schools open that didn't meet the quality threshold that I expect from any school, which is why one of the first policy decisions that I made when I became Chief Education Officer was the charter quality policy, which doesn't get talked about a whole lot. We did not have one before that, and we saw the proliferation of charter schools, in particular in a lot of communities that were under-resourced, and it ended up saturating in some areas and wasn't the best choice for kids. So now we actually have a policy where if those schools don't perform, they can be closed. We passed that in November of 2015, and every single year, those schools are put on a warning list, it's made public, and we've taken action on poor-performing schools, just as we have taken action on poor-performing schools within the district. So I say that to say that we did work to bring about more parity because there was a bit of disparity between how charter schools, poor-performing charter schools were treated in the past compared to poor-performing district schools. As far as the selective enrollment concern, I was a selective enrollment principal when that was reversed. It wasn't just the consent decree. You also know that there was a federal law, so this is not a CPS decision. This is federal law that doesn't allow us to use race as a part of the criteria. I remember Dr. Kenner was a principal as well at that time, and we were outraged by that because we predicted exactly what you just said, that schools would be less diverse if it was only going to be based on the criteria that we have today. So we're in agreement with that. What I know has changed is we allow for principal discretion. Many principals use that to create the type of diversity they're trying to achieve in their schools. But I think as a school system, the best thing we can do is try to create schools for everybody. I used to be the network chief you can look it up, but for a region in Chicago, and we were having similar conversations like this. And I'm gonna say to you what I said to them that night, which is if we're not gonna have serious conversations about people's discomfort going to school with poor Black and brown students, we're never gonna solve the issue around everybody scrambling for selective enrollment schools. Because I would love to believe, and I would change it in an instant, that if we struck down any of those selection criteria, that people would still stay in those schools, I would do it today. But you and I both know that's not true. So the one thing that we have to do is make a public declaration, which we've done around equity, and it didn't take, 3 or 4 months to get in the state that we're in Chicago and in this country. It's hundreds of years. But the first thing that I did in this role was to make clear that this is something that's important to me, and I'm gonna go decision by decision, and I hope that when my time is up here in CPS, and Dr. Kenner, I hope to be the last CEO that you experience before you decide to leave the district, that we can say the collection of those have helped us to achieve greater equity and diversity in our school system. But the challenge I put out there to everybody is to do more of what we saw happen at Ogden Jenner, which is something that I was actually surprised by. I was surprised that we were able to combine those 2 communities despite their differences. So I was very in favor of it early on, but I wasn't optimistic that it was going to happen because my past decisions or past experiences led me to believe it wouldn't happen. With regard to Englewood High School, I'll start there first and end with National Teachers Academy in South Loop. With regard to Englewood, I look at that from a purely educational standpoint. I know that other people have looked at it from a fiscal standpoint. There are many different reasons. But as an educator, I cannot walk in a school where there are 90 kids across 4 grade levels and keep it open because it's politically expedient. I won't do that. I won't subject students to a school that I know is not good enough for my kids or anybody else that I'm giving advice to. I also ask that the people who are against this, if they don't want these schools to close, they can easily stand up and send their kids to the school and they will reverse it right away. But even the people in that community have figured out that they wanted a better opportunity and on average are traveling 6 miles to get a better education, and that's not fair. So the original plan to close them all at the end of the school year was too aggressive, and we heard that, and I listened and changed the plan and allowed for those individuals, and there were some who wanted to stay through, the next 3 or 4 years and graduate with their peers. We're giving them that. But we also took students up on their offer. Some students took us up on our offer to go to what they, not what they consider a higher performing school based on SQRP, and I think that's fair. One of the things that I lead by is I try to make decisions for the district based on what's best for children and not what's politically expedient. And sometimes people disagree with that, but I'm always willing to have a discussion about how I arrived at those decisions. NTA is definitely a much more controversial decision for the school system, but NTA is I don't want to say model because we haven't completed it yet, but it's a approach that we have to start taking as a district, and I'm going to explain to you why. You have a region where there are 3,000 elementary seats and 0 high-quality high school seats. And I know people will list all the schools and say all of that, once again, because it's politically expedient. But when 4% of the kids choose to go there, it's not an option. And you have 0 high school seats, you can't just build another school as a part of the solution. If we know from the data that we have an excess in one area and a need in another area, that's first and foremost a decision that we have to make from a good city planning standpoint. But beyond that, if we go back to high schools, what isn't talked about a lot in this plan is that the students who attend NTA, who are getting a good education and will continue to get a good education, either at NTA, which was a concession we made after hearing from them, will also be able to go to NTA as a high school. What people won't talk about is that many of the students in those schools, they do not have a guaranteed access into a high-quality school. They're just like every other parent sitting in this room who has to roll the dice every year and play the game to get into a good school. Now they will have a guaranteed seat in what I know will be a level 1+ school, just like the elementary school is. And will it be painful? I know it hurt to make that decision. But I know it's what's in the best interest of those students, because when I look at them, not only are the students in NTA going to be able to go to that school, but students in Chinatown are going to be able to go to that school. Students in Drake, in the Dearborn homes, are going to be able to go to that school, as well as the kids who live in the South Loop. And we only have a handful of high schools that are diverse in Chicago because of, that are open enrollment and diverse. And NTA is going to be one of them. So if we're really serious about integrating schools, integration is not easy. Combining school communities is not easy. I have said publicly that I will be held accountable for the transition. The decision has already been made, but I will work collaboratively with the community members who are interested in making this plan work the way that they think is best. But the decision has been made, and we need to turn our attention to the future and how we're going to make sure that everything we promised in this plan actually happens for those kids. And I'm standing up publicly to say that's what I'm committed to doing. So thank you. All right.
Resource tables and closing remarks.
All right. We have to wrap up. So we do have the resource tables available until 8:30. So my staff is here. They're going to transition out. And if you have any specific questions about a school, you can definitely talk to them. And again, thank you. Spread the word and let people know that it's a good use of time. I hope to see more people at our next town hall. Thank you.